Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here representing Jason Blaha Strength and Fitness. And a quick reminder, if you guys will please click like down below, be greatly appreciated. If you're not subscribed or following, please do so. And if you'll be kind enough to drop me a comment down below, I'd appreciate it so much. Thank you. All right, let's get over to this topic. When it comes to the topic of isolation, I'm not going to tell people not to ever do isolation work. We could make a lot of arguments about compound versus isolation. These are a lot of conversations we could have. But generally speaking, and when I say for most people, I'm talking about people who do not compete in bodybuilding. I'm talking about people who are not going to make their living off of their physique. You're not going to be a fitness model. You're not trying to have 500,000 followers as a fitness influencer, right? All these people. Generally speaking, people who just want to be really fit. Like if a good enough physique for you is to walk into a room, have the best physique in the room, this is who I'm talking about. You're not talking about being competitive. You just want to have, for the average person, say, hey, you have a really good body. You're strong, you're fit, you're healthy, you're athletic. And people say, wow, you look really good. You probably don't need to isolate more than one muscle. And so for me right now, that's my biceps, right? What do you guys see me kind of isolating? Biceps. Not saying I don't do some band press downs and stuff right now, or some band pull aparts and stuff, some of this, tendon work. But generally speaking, and I'm just using myself then as the example, because my biceps, quite frankly, could use it. My arms tended to have a lag. They're not my genetic strong point. I've torn a bicep previously, have a little muscle missing in there. So those things, right? And so in my case, it makes sense. That's the one thing I pick. But what I would say to most people, it's not going to matter that much. In other words, as long as you're training everything balanced, you're probably going to look pretty good. And I'm not saying winning bodybuilding shows. I'm not saying you're going to be a fitness model level good. But by and large, isolating a muscle, if you're training everything, is not going to add inches and inches to it. It's just simply not. Right? If you're not directly injecting it with stuff, you're not using gear, you're not, people are not going to see these overall massive changes. You're just not. It's just going to give you a little bit more for something that might be, a weak link. And I get that. We all have a weak link. But what I'm saying here is that if your training is balanced, let's say you're doing basic stuff. You have a good hip hinge like a deadlift or a good morning. You do a squat pattern movement, all right? So I'm saying squats and deadlifts, but it doesn't have to be those exact things. It could be close enough, right? You could be doing front squats and RDLs. That's fine. And I'm not saying that's optimal either, but that's fine. You're doing a chest press. You're doing some back work. You're doing rows, pull-ups, or chin-ups, right? Maybe some overhead pressing or something for your shoulders. See where I'm going with this? You're training all this stuff with sufficient workload, progressive overload, you're probably pretty good. Everything is being worked fairly evenly, okay? Fairly evenly. You're picking the exercises that you really get the most of. If you feel chest and triceps the most out of dips, and you're pushing dips, and that's what I'm talking about. It's bench press and push bench press. Incline bench and push incline bench, okay? All great movements. But if you're training everything balanced, everything is going to grow relatively even, at least within the context of your structure, your genetics. Most people, you're going to look pretty good. If you get to a lean enough body fat and you put some time in just doing all these various movements, you have about 6 or 7, 5, 6, 7 really good basic movement patterns, and you're training every muscle that way, there's nothing that's not being worked. And I'll give you an example. Squat, bench, deadlift, overhead press, row pull-up. Done. You're working every muscle in your body, or even a chin-up. There's not one muscle in your body that is not getting direct, serious growth stimulus. So just throwing that out, that's an example. To the average person, you're going to look pretty dang good. You're going to look pretty impressive once you put on size. Now, you may have one lagging muscle, and that's what I would say when it comes to isolation. Okay? It's an inefficient use of your time. It actually is an easy way to get overuse issues. It's an easy way to overtrain certain muscles, everything else. So be aware of that. Okay, be aware of that. And it's not going to add huge amounts of muscle anywhere. It's just not. And that's even a data-driven thing. Like, you don't have a whole lot of evidence that curls add more bicep than just doing enough volume on a pull-up or a lat pull-down. And that's what's been found looking at it in lab. Does more than just rows. It's vertical versus horizontal pull. All right, so this is what I would say. You have the one muscle you really care about. That's the one you should isolate. And I'm saying for most people, it's an inefficient use of your gym time. It's an inefficient use of your gym time that may not be doing much for you. But whatever your lagging muscle is, by all means, if you want to isolate it, isolate it. For me, it's biceps. For another guy, it could be side delts. Another guy, it's their calves. Right? So you have the one guy who maybe their upper body, and I know guys like that. I know guys who get good arms just from pressing and pulling. They have pretty dang good arms, and they have no calves. Squats and deadlifts don't grow their calves. No, that's not me. Mine blow up from it. Especially if I throw sled work and stuff in too. But let's say it's your calves. Because that's usually how it is. Have you noticed that also? By the way, I'm not saying this is everyone. I've noticed a tendency for the guys who get really good arms just from chin-ups. I know guys who have great arms from chin-ups and dips. Great arms. I've met guys who I'm like, dude, your arms are so much better than mine, and that's all they do. Mad jelly. But they can't grow calves to save their life. Right? For that guy, calf raises is what he's going to need to balance his physique out. That's what he's going to have. And I literally have known that dude. I had a dude I used to train near all the time at the gym, had that situation. Man, and then he had to do calf raises, and they still struggled to stay caught up. But the dude had great arms from nothing but like chin-ups and just calisthenic type stuff. I'm serious, and he'd bench still. But you know, it was almost comical. But we've all seen that guy. But how common is that? The guys who have great arms tend to not have great calves. So that guy might need to isolate calves. For someone else, it might be delts. Their biceps and everything grow just fine from their big movements. But man, those delts really lag. In that case, they may want to do some laterals and other stuff. Okay, and that's what I mean. For most people, as long as your training is balanced, right, you're not going to have too big a lagging body parts unless they're just a genetic weak link. You know, like me and biceps. So in that case, it makes sense to come in and isolate them. But if you're going to isolate them, then do it right. We're doing all these other big movements. So big, heavy compounds are clearly not working for that one muscle. So don't try to come in and treat your isolation like a big, heavy compound. Come in and isolate it. Like do some strict curling. Do some really strict deep stretch calf raises if your calves are the weak link. If it's your side delts, you need to find a lateral version that really, really lights that side delt up for you. You might have to go to a plate. You might have to go to a cable because maybe even the dumbbell just doesn't feel right to you. And in that case, by all means, feel free to isolate that muscle. Go for it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.